r/AskReddit created by routinereddit. What was your "it seemed like a good idea at the time" story? In high school, my friend discovered that he was particularly agile at running toward a wall and kicking off of it into a backflip. He would do this all day, every day, before school, at lunch, etc. One day we were inside a classroom and the teacher had stepped out for a moment. Of course he took this opportunity to try his little trick. He didn't, however, take into account the fact that drywall might not support his weight as well as the brick and concrete walls he'd tried before. His leg ended up busting straight through the wall to the other side, into a classroom full of students taking an exam. So I wasn't actually in the class taking the exam, but to this day, I still imagine how strange and hilarious it would be to be sitting in that class then suddenly see a leg burst through the wall. Makes me smile just thinking about it. Reminds me of a time I was in high school. We had 2 different lunch periods, so some people were in class, while others were in lunch. We were allowed to go outside on days when it was nice, so we took this opportunity to play some frisbee. Well, an unexpected breeze came along and took the frisbee off course and perfectly through a 3rd floor window and hit a kid taking an exam. I always chuckle thinking of everyone quietly taking a test safely inside the classroom when out of nowhere bam. Worst part was the teacher wouldn't toss us back the frisbee. You reminded me of a story. My math classroom in high school shared a wall with another class. On said wall was a big window with a good sized gap at the top. Whenever our teacher would leave the room, we'd toss things back and forth with the other class, stick signs in the window, etc. One day when our teacher stepped out, my friend power launched his textbook towards the window, intending to throw it through the gap, but he didn't throw it high enough. It just slammed into the window and scared the piss out of the other class. The book took down a shelf on its way to the ground, and I swear within 5 seconds we had like 3 math teachers yelling at us after having heard all the noise. While they were chewing us out, a lone marker went flying into our classroom. It was beautiful. Haha, that's awesome. Reminds me of high school biology. We were doing some experiment with potatoes. Class was almost over, and my buddy pockets a big potato. The rest of us were wondering what he was up to, and he said, "Watch this." The bell rang, and we went into the hall. He gave it a few seconds for the hall to fill up, and winged that fucker. The ceiling was pretty high, so it went quite far, and then we hear mother freaker who threw that potato get down the hall, and some poor dude had bits of potato stuck in his hair. He was pissed, ready to fight whoever threw it. I couldn't stop laughing. What jerks we were back then. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment for daily Reddit videos. Being roommates with someone I had a huge crush on. It didn't end well. Friend-zoned? Marizo. That person turned out to be an abusive manipulator who had complete disregard for my feelings, well-being, and possessions. I thought they were my best friend, and I eventually figured out the hard way they were not. It wasn't just me. This individual pretty much used people as playthings and disposed of them when they weren't getting any more entertainment or validation from them. They were super toxic. It took me a long time to heal from what I went through. In the end though, I'm grateful for the lessons I learned. I ran across the street with my eyes closed when I was 14. I didn't get hit by a car. However, I ran into a tree head first and cut my face and knee open. For all of you asking what my thought process was, it is as follows. Who am I kidding? I have no idea what I was thinking. I'm sorry. I just laughed so freaking hard. Looking back, it's hilarious. But what the heck was I doing? Really? Shooting each other with fireworks on New Year's. One landed directly in between my eyes. Luckily, it didn't go off, and I wasn't injured. And with July 4th around the corner, I feel it's pertinent to remind everyone to please be safe with your fireworks out there. Remember kids, only shoot fireworks at the people you hate. Burned myself with a firework. Moving in with my girlfriend. I messed up. It's a disaster that I should have seen coming. Please tell me more. I'm considering moving in with mine soon. My mistakes were so basic it stings to even type it out. Make sure you know yourself and how you react to situations you'll be getting into, and if there are any red flags in you/her/the relationship, pay attention to them. I made another comment with more detail about my dumbness. If you want to peruse that point, same boat man. It was my first long-term relationship. I ignored hundreds of very obvious red flags that it wasn't going to work. Hope you're doing better now, my dude. Me and my friend used to play a game where we threw a Swiss Army knife up in the air at night time and then ran away from it with the knife part out. We did similar with a potato gun. We had it rigged so you could slap the bottom and that would ignite it. So we shot potatoes up in the air like mortars at night and ran until we heard the thud of it hitting the ground again. Ready, aim, spank. Applying for a PhD position, crappy pay, and no free time in sight for the next 3 years. Thanks to it, I despise working in science like never before. I got a PhD many years ago and have worked in academia since. I really regret it. If you think your mental health/social life is suffering during your PhD, it does not get any easier when you land a job in academia. I used to think the PhD was the hardest thing I would ever do. Boy, was I wrong. Edit. I should say, if you're a good bit into it, stick at it. You'll have it for life. As soon as you get it though, get the heck out of academia and land a role in industry. When I was 15, my best friend and I just got new BB pistols. They were the Wilder CP99. Looked identical to the real Wilder CP9 with a removable magazine and no orange tip. We were playing with them in the backseat of his mom's car. They weren't loaded. We were just excited and wanted to take them out of the box. She knew we had them out and didn't think anything of it. This was the late 90s BTW. Before going back to his house, she went through the drive-thru at Burger King. You know where this is going. She's ordering food with two large 15-year-olds holding guns and pointing them at everything. Fast forward 30 minutes, we are pulling into their driveway and his dad comes running out of the house yelling hysterically. One of his friends just called and said he heard on the police scanner that they were looking for his vehicle with two white males holding a female hostage at gunpoint. Few minutes later, several police cars pull in the driveway, jump out with guns out, making everyone get on the ground. It took some explaining on his dad's part about us being a bunch of dumbasses. 15-year-old me couldn't figure out what all the fuss was about, but 34-year-old me looks back and realizes that might be the dumbest thing I have ever done. Yelling hysterically, "What is thou doing brandishing such armaments in front of thine matron? The constable will be here post haste." Edit. I thank the assemblage for gifts of tribute. When I was a kid, I tried to ride my bike up the trunk of a tree so I could kick off and try to land it, and it'd be really cool. Turns out a tree trunk is rounded, and so you'll just slip off the trunk and hit your head on the tree. My brother still gives me crap about trying to ride my bike up a tree. Please say you were in your 20s when this happened. Unfortunately no, I was about 8 or 9. Hey, you know those degenerates who you stay out drinking with until sunrise every other day? Why don't you live with them for the last 2 years of law school? That won't cause any issues at all. Q 2 years of abuse to my body and liver and more than a little strain between me and my friends at the time. Overall it was fun, but definitely not a good idea. Yeah, I did this too. If you make friends with the party people in your dorm, don't move in with them after first year. Move in with the studious people in your dorm, but go party with your party friends once in a while. Your home life will be quiet and conducive to studying, and your party friends will stay friends. It's real hard to stay friends with those people when you live with them, because they can be incredibly selfish and inconsiderate, because partying comes first and your studies/sleep/job come last always. And even after college. I moved in with 3 friends that work in the service industry, and I'm the only one with a 7 to 4 desk job. These guys are great friends of mine, but holy crap, do they not understand that I have to be up by 5:30 pretty much every morning. The late night partying till 3:30 to 4 during the week is a bit much. I get it, it's their weekend, but it definitely has caused a little strain in our friendship. Starting a career in television in the late 90s. I mean, the internet is cool and all, but it's still way too slow to ever compete with 200 TV channels, right? I relate. Me at the same time, learning printing. Our factory's biggest contracts were for making maps, newsletters for organizations, flyers, phone books, TV guided magazines. Nobody's ever gonna stop needing those, right? LMAO. Oof. All things that are now on a box that fits in your pocket. So back in the day, my brothers and I were shooting a bow and arrow behind our house. We had a proper backstop and a nice target on a bale of hay. After about an hour we were getting bored, and one of my brothers had a stroke of genius. Let's freaking light one on fire. So there we are, wiring rags to arrows, and soaking them in gas and shooting stuff. Didn't take long and half the yard was on fire. We'd shot pretty much every flammable thing we could burn in the yard. Since we were running short on stuff to shoot, my brother decided to launch one in a 45 degrees arc over the woods behind the house. We all watched, saw laughing and giggling. When it hit the apex was when it dawned on us that this was in fact a really stupid freaking idea. All 6 of us sprinted off into the woods in the direction it had been shot. Wasn't hard to find, it had lit an entire little meadow on fire. So we ran around stumping out fires for an hour. When we finally got the fire put out, we were sitting by the creek and my oldest brother looks at us all and says, "Dad never hears a word about this." A kid I knew growing up was hanging out with his friends at his dad's hunting camp. They were around 17 over 18 at the time, and they were playing around with fire like this. Ended up setting fire to the woods surrounding the camp, burning it and many acres surrounding it to the ground. His dad was less than pleased. He took money from the kids' college fund to pay the fines from the fire department and pay to rebuild the hunting camp lodge, and there was practically nothing left after that. Last I heard, he had to live at home for a handful of years after high school to save money for post-secondary, while his friends all went off and got degrees and stuff. Severely impacted his life, all from a bit of fun with fire. Yeah, we definitely got lucky and should have known better. As big as the fire got, it could have been much worse. Learned our lesson and didn't shoot flaming arrows into the woods. I was in the area, so I stopped at my now ex-girlfriend's house to ask her to go to breakfast with me. Pulled up to see her at the front door and her neighbor walking out of her place while putting his shirt back on. She sees me, and I just shook my head, waved and then left. Never spoke to her again. Dodged a bullet there, my dude. Who waits to put their shirt on outside? Chad McThundercock.